Today's submission explores the rampant commercialization and performative nature of the fake bhakti trend across Indian social media, basically dissecting how influencers exploit religious sentiments for views.
Yeah, it's a huge issue right now.
It really is. And I gotta say, the sheer volume of fantastic raw data in this material is incredible, from dancing at Kedarnath to the weaponization of faith by internet trolls.
But our goal today is to sculpt this raw outrage into a sharp, undeniable thesis.
Right, let's get into it. So let's jump right into the structure. So a key theme running through this material seems to be the bizarre ways devotion is being commodified.
Mm-hmm.
But reading it, it feels a bit overwhelming. The author just throws a massive amount of vivid examples at us right out of the gate.
Oh, definitely. The current arrangement of case studies creates a repetitive loop of outrage rather than a building, escalating narrative.
Yet, like, we read about the Laddu Gopal report cards from Marigold Public School,
Which is wild on its own.
right? But then we immediately pivot to massive DJ trucks blasting bass at the Kanwar Yatra, and then suddenly we're reading about the king of Ujjain threatening to send a doctor to a Kalapani hospital.
It gives you whiplash.
Totally. I was reading this and feeling just, totally overwhelmed by the sheer velocity of the examples. You go from dressing up a deity to violent highway hooliganism in 2 paragraphs. It feels super chaotic.
Because it's structured exactly like the social media it's critiquing.
Yes, exactly. It's like scrolling through an Instagram feed.
And when you structure a written piece like an endless social media feed, you lose the power of argumentation entirely.
Yeah, you lose the thread.
Right. The weakness here is that the text jumps frantically between totally disparate phenomena without pausing to delineate the severity of these actions.
Right, it treats it all the same.
Exactly. Treating a deity's idol to a salon visit or, feeding it a stylized glass of lassi is certainly cringeworthy.
Very cringe.
But then, in the very next breath, we are reading about severe public nuisance on the highways, and then suddenly actual intimidation and misogyny from the Mahakal gang.
It's just too much all at once.
And because these vastly different behaviors are treated with the exact same level of rhetorical intensity, the piece flattens out. It just reads like a flat list of grievances rather than a structured warning.
Yeah, it's like listing the symptoms of an illness in alphabetical order instead of tracing how a mild cough actually develops into pneumonia.
That's a great way to put it.
When the reader is bouncing from a silly outfit of the day competition at a garba night directly to violent threats, they completely lose the sense of stakes. The causality is missing. Are we just supposed to accept that all of this is equally bad?
Well, not equally bad, but interconnected.
Okay.
If the author grouped these examples into an escalating typology, they could show how this behavior evolves from harmless annoyance to actual danger.
Oh, I see.
That's clearly laid out. I wonder, though, if we've considered organizing the piece into 3 distinct acts.
3 acts. Okay, I really like the idea of acts. What would those 3 acts practically look like based on the raw material the author provided?
Well, let's look at the least harmful stuff first. Act 1 could be titled something like Performative Devotion.
Okay.
This is where you group all the cringe. You focus entirely on the absurdity of the Laddu Gopal trend or those Garba outfit competitions.
Right, the stuff that's just weird.
Yeah, we're talking about people treating a sacred deity like a baby influencer, complete with report cards and salon trips. The mechanism here is purely narcissistic.
Right.
The influencers are using faith as an aesthetic prop for their own personal branding.
Yeah, it's the commodification of a personal, private ritual. I mean, it's annoying and maybe a little disrespectful to traditionalists, but it's mostly harmless. You scroll past it and roll your eyes.
Exactly, but it sets a crucial baseline.
Okay, so what's next?
Then, the author can naturally escalate into Act 2, the desecration of sacred spaces.
Ah, getting out into the real world.
Yes, notice how the mechanism shifts here. We move from personal branding in a living room to spatial dominance in the real world.
Like the DJ trucks?
Exactly. This is where you utilize the examples of those elaborate Bollywood-style marriage proposals at the Kedarnath temple or the disruptive DJ trucks during the Kanwar Yatra.
Wow, yeah.
The quest for views is no longer confined to a private altar. It is now encroaching on public goods. They are hijacking a shared sacred environment and causing actual nuisance to thousands of other pilgrims.
That's a very clear step up in severity. I mean, it moves from look at me to make way for me. The stakes are higher because other people are now being actively disturbed.
Precisely. And that spatial dominance paves the way for Act 3, which would climax with weaponized religion.
The really dark stuff.
Yeah. This is where the trend crosses the line from public nuisance into outright criminality.
Like the King of Ujjain?
Exactly. Here, the author can showcase the King of Ujjain's thuggery, the creation of mock police institutions to harass locals, and, the organized misogynistic trolls leaving vile comments on actresses' pages under the guise of religious purity.
It's terrifying.
It is. You demonstrate how the religious aesthetic is now being used as a literal shield for immunity against the law and social norms.
Wow.
Now, make it clear this is just one potential framework out of many. But structuring it this way turns a list of complaints into a compelling warning.
It shows the reader why they should care about the cringe in Act 1 because it's the gateway drug to the violence in Act 3, you know?
Exactly.
You start by rolling your eyes at a fake report card and you end up dealing with a mob.
It's a clear escalation.
And that actually connects beautifully to the underlying causes too. Let's look closely at the section discussing the sociological drivers.
Yes, the why behind all of this.
Right. The author has done some brilliant research here, specifically focusing on the post-2014 cultural shift, the geo-internet boom that brought millions of rural users online overnight, and the collective psychological trauma of the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's really strong material.
It is. But I have to admit, as I was reading, I felt like these sociological points were totally isolated from the influencer gossip.
You hit the nail on the head. The fascinating sociological and psychological drivers behind this trend are currently buried in their own silo, separated from the character studies of the influencers themselves.
Yes, it's so frustrating. We get this deeply academic chapter on the historical rise of cheap data and pandemic anxiety, and then later a completely separate, almost tabloidy chapter mocking a 10-year-old spiritual auditor.
They feel like two different essays.
Exactly. The mechanics of the trend are entirely divorced from the faces of the trend. As a reader, I'm left to do the heavy lifting of connecting those dots myself. And honestly, by page 10, I was too tired to make the connection.
And the reader shouldn't have to do that work. The material accurately diagnoses the macro trends, how the pandemic created an anxious Gen Z desperate for certainty, and how cheap internet brought millions online simultaneously.
Right, the supply and the demand.
Right. It also brilliantly cites the Monin and Miller 2001 cognitive dissonance study regarding moral licensing.
Oh, I loved that part.
It's a great study. However, these deep insights are segregated from the actual case studies of figures like Abhinav Arora or Tanya Mittal. The analysis of the creators and the analysis of the audience are living in two different rooms.
So how do we merge those rooms? I mean, we need to bring the academic framework down into the mud with the Instagram reels, right?
Definitely. The suggestion here is to interweave these macroeconomic and psychological drivers directly into the character studies.
Okay, how so?
Well, is there a risk that focusing solely on mocking Abhinav Arora might overlook the societal trauma that manufactured him?
Oh, that's a great question.
When discussing this 10-year-old spiritual auditor, the author needs to weave in the post-COVID anxiety of the youth right there in that paragraph.
Explain why the audience craves him.
Exactly. Explain that Gen Z is flocking to this child because they are a traumatized generation seeking simple, pre-packaged certainty.
Oh, I see. Because the pandemic completely shattered their sense of a predictable future. When everything around you is chaotic, watching a kid speak with absolute, rehearsed certainty about the cosmos it's deeply comforting.
That is the core of it. The influencer is just the supply. The societal trauma is the demand. If the author puts them together in the same breath, the piece elevates from a simple expo to a profound cultural critique.
That completely changes the stakes of the essay. And wait, what about that Monin and Miller study, the moral licensing concept?
Oh, we definitely need to talk about that.
Because I thought that was one of the strongest pieces of evidence in the entire submission. But right now, it's just floating out there in the abstract. It reads like a textbook excerpt that got pasted into the wrong document.
It is an incredibly powerful concept, but it needs to be applied directly to the ugliest parts of this trend.
Right.
When the author is detailing the horrific comments under the actress's Durga Puja photo, they need to immediately apply that cognitive dissonance study there.
They need to explain in the moment how the brain's moral ledger works.
The moral ledger. I love that concept. It's kind of like if I eat a massive healthy salad for lunch, my brain tells me I've banked some health points.
Yeah, exactly.
So when dinner rolls around, I feel completely justified in ordering a massive slice of chocolate cake. I don't feel like a glutton because the salad gave me permission. I gave myself a license.
That is the exact mechanism, just applied to human morality instead of calories.
Right.
If a user spends 3 hours a day sharing religious posts, liking videos of temple bells, and typing Jai Shri Ram in comment sections, their brain calculates a massive surplus of morality.
Their internal ledger is in the green.
Deeply in the green. They have convinced themselves that they are a righteous, devout person.
So when they see a woman posting a photo they disagree with, they feel they've earned a withdrawal from that moral bank account.
Precisely. They have given themselves the psychological, moral license to leave a vile, misogynistic threat on her photo without feeling like a bad person.
Wow.
In their minds, a bio filled with religious slogans gives them immunity. By intertwining this psychological mechanism directly with the real-world example of the trolls, the sociological research actively does the heavy lifting in the narrative.
It explains the why behind the what.
Yes, making the behavior comprehensible even if it remains deeply reprehensible.
It gives the reader a lens to actually understand the internet, rather than just be mad at it. I can see what you're going for here. Let's see how we can strengthen this even further by addressing the overall tone of the piece.
The tone is definitely something we need to look at.
Because digging into that psychology reveals just how angry the author is, and justifiably so. I mean, the commercialization of ancient sacred traditions is infuriating.
Absolutely.
But as I read through page after page of heavy sarcasm, I had to pause. If we just relentlessly mock these creators as unemployed youth or frauds, do we risk alienating readers who might genuinely find peace in digital spirituality?
It's a huge risk. The pervasive tone of cynicism, while justified, risks alienating listeners by failing to establish what healthy, genuine digital devotion actually looks like.
It can feel a bit like tearing down a house without pointing out that a structurally sound house can actually exist on the exact same plot of land.
Right.
I kept thinking about my friend's grandmother. She loves watching digital bhajans on YouTube. It's how she connects with her community since she can't easily walk to the temple anymore.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It is. But she might read the broad strokes of the cynicism and feel totally attacked, even if the author doesn't mean to target her at all.
That's the danger of a purely negative critique. The weakness here is that the author briefly mentions, almost as an aside, that they have no problem with 80–90% of bhakti content.
Right. It's like one sentence.
Yeah. They even acknowledge that figures like Premanand Maharaj or Osho provide real solace. However, this nuance is a blink-and-you-miss-it moment. It is quickly swallowed by the relentless mockery of the remaining 10%.
It gets totally lost.
Completely. Without a clear baseline of what is good or acceptable in the digital age, the critique can come across as an elitist rejection of how modern people interact with their faith.
So the author needs to show the reader that they actually understand the value of the medium before they criticize its abuse. How do we build that into the text without it just sounding like a defensive, legally mandated disclaimer at the beginning of the essay?
That makes sense, but could the evidence also support a different approach? Like introducing a constructive foil or counter-narrative early on.
A constructive foil. Okay, what does that look like?
Dedicate a specific, earnest paragraph to the positive side of digital religion. Highlight the sharp contrast between genuine digital adaptation of faith and pure, cynical exploitation.
So, actually taking time to describe a Gen Z youth finding a supportive, quiet community online.
Exactly.
Or maybe someone respectfully sharing a beautifully sung bhajan without, turning the camera on themselves to make it a narcissistic display.
Yes. Use the author's own point about how Hinduism allows for customized connections with the divine. Lean into it. Establish that the author respects modern digital expressions of faith.
That builds so much trust with the reader.
It does. And by doing that, the subsequent takedown of the fake influencers hits much harder.
Because shadows are always darkest next to a bright light.
Precisely. Think about the influencer who sells couples games while playing a spiritual guru, or the ones literally putting brand tags on God. When you contrast them against the grandmother finding genuine peace on YouTube, the fakes look utterly indefensible.
Yeah, it proves the author isn't anti-religion or anti-internet. They're just anti-exploitation.
Exactly. It shifts the tone from bitter sarcasm to protective authority. It gives the reader permission to agree with the critique without feeling like they are betraying their own modern spiritual practices.
All right, this has been an incredibly deep dive, and I think we have a clear roadmap for the author. Let's quickly recap the actionable feedback we've covered today to ensure this material reaches its absolute maximum potential.
Let's do it.
First, structure and flow. We need to stop endlessly scrolling through a chaotic list of examples.
Right, group them up.
Organize the chaotic examples into a clear, escalating typology. Move from the private cringe of performative devotion to the desecration of public spaces, all the way to the dangerous weaponization of religion.
Give it a trajectory. And second, significance and relevance. The author must weave the brilliant sociological research, the COVID trauma, the geo-boom, cognitive dissonance directly into the influencer case studies.
Don't keep them in separate rooms.
Exactly. Explain the why right alongside the what.
And third, tone and style. Establish a baseline of healthy digital spirituality to serve as a foil.
The constructive foil.
Yes. Show what genuine digital faith looks like early on, ensuring the critique of the cynical fakes lands with maximum authority. Prevent the reader from feeling alienated.
It really transforms the author from a cynic into a protector. The raw data is phenomenal. It just needs the right architecture.
It really does. We want to warmly thank the listener for submitting this deeply researched, vital observation on modern culture. It takes a sharp eye to see past the ring lights and the filters.
Absolutely.
We explicitly invite you to implement these structural and thematic changes and submit the revised material back to the critique for another look. We'd genuinely love to see how this evolves.
Can't wait to read the next draft.
Because at the end of the day, if we don't understand the machinery behind the screen, the trauma, the algorithms, the psychological ledgers, we'll never figure out how that ancient, quiet stone temple ended up bathed in the blinding glare of a ring light.
Well said. We have to understand the light if we want to reclaim the silence.